Hi, my name is Ken Rasmussen. I wrote the Microbiome prescription website, and this is the second of two October 2024 videos on a introduction to using the site and what you can do with it. It's also very frustrating because this is the third try which I have. There are tries have had glitches on them, so I'm trying once more, and hopefully we'll remember to do everything. Okay, so first thing is we have the site Microbiome prescription, which many of you are aware. And what we're looking at today is click upload your sample. The first video, which is already out there, basically deals with the low resolution microbiome test. By low resolution, you can see the numbers there. Some cases just 7 bacteria, some cases 100. And what we are going to be doing is looking at the preferred tests, which are 16S or shotgun. Instead of 40 bacteria being reported, for 16S we typically have 400 to 800. For shotgun, from 4,000 to 8,000. In other words, we're talking about 16S being a full magnitude more detail, shotgun being 2 magnitudes greater detail. So it is there now. How do you get your data in there? There's two ways. One is by doing an upload for some tests, and for other tests like Biomosite, we end up having a much easier approach. If you go to Biomosite and you log in, you will go and see the summary there. And now if you go down on the left side, you see third-party apps, and one of which is Microbiome Prescription. And there you have all your samples. All you have to do is click here, and it will transfer the data across automatically to Microbiome Prescription for you. And then you will get an email looking something like this. Oops, sorry, like this. And it will simply tell you it's a citizen science launch. You can delete the data whenever you want, and the data you contribute will be available to other citizen scientists to go and explore. So you are that's simply there, gives you the link and the legal spiel in terms of personal health information being shared and terms and conditions. So basically you click here, and then that will log you into the site. The other way is you go in and you do an upload, and the upload process is pretty straightforward. You go in, you find the file, the matching file of the right type, click OK, put in your email address, the date, and click upload consent, and you will also get an email after the upload has been successful to do it. And if there's a problem, just basically email research at Microsoft Microbiome Prescription.com, include a copy of the file you're trying to upload. Unfortunately, frequently the microbiome testing firms changes their format, which then breaks the upload. So generally I need a new copy in order to, or the current copy of whatever the problem is, to fix the problem. Okay, so again, that will come and you will get a email looking like this, and that will then log you into the site. So I'm going to hop over and actually do a login. And on the login, it goes to the new UI, simplifying UI, trying to deal with the common user, especially the newbie user, and the old one with all of the details for anybody who is absolute microbiome nerd is sitting there. So you can go there or there. But Simple Home is the new UI, and we may have, depending on if you have data, the transcribed samples here, which are talked about in the prior video, and transfer and upload the sample, which is what we're doing with here. On the right, we have a bunch of quick wizard steps. The first one is suggested for somebody who has no apparent health problems and just wants to improve the health more. And what you do is when you click that, it will go and identify bacteria which are abnormally high or abnormally low, and does it by actually 4 different set of algorithms. And then generate suggestions. So click here, it will now go off and do a rather large stack of calculations, which is why it takes some time to do it, and then comes back with, drum roll, suggestions, and it specifies how many bacteria it focuses on, and identifies 208 bacteria, and whether or not it's high or low. And so that is basically what it's doing. It's going through and doing a thing. Now remember, this is a shotgun test I'm working with, so we're talking about 200 out of 8,000. So we are being relatively selective, but um, we are not filtering to bacteria causing a particular symptom or a particular diagnosis or condition. And then down below we have ranked order, the suggestions, and to the void. Now these rates are based on the number of studies showing a particular SIP for each bacteria we are wanting to shift, how much the difference is from the beginning top or the bottom of the range, and a bunch of other things. So it is a complicated formula, and this is a approximation for what we at the moment have the greatest confidence as being right value, and we'll show you how to get the information the decision was made on, and you can do your own algorithm or approach by hand if you want to. And then that's there, so it's there. Now if you go back to the home page, we also notice you can include commercial probiotic symptoms there. So what I'm going to do is go on and first I'm going to beginner symptoms. Beginner symptoms uses citizen science thing, which means we are working off annotated samples people have uploaded with their symptoms. If we have enough from one particular lab, then we will show a list here. In this case, from foreign, we don't have enough to identify patterns, or the patterns we have identified, you don't have any matches to it. So if you go over to a different one, like for example, let's do Thrive here. And now we go and we list everything out. And in this case, as you see, I have nothing in the already selected, so I could go down the list and say, okay, mentally tired, touch of emotional overload. Go down and just click the ones which applies to you. Night sweats. So the number here is the percentage match to the bacteria symptom pattern. Doesn't mean you have the symptom. It's just that the bacteria you have, a combination of, matches people with the symptom, and often the missing part is your actual DNA in terms of what you react to. So you can go down here. Now, if I uncheck that one, it won't be saved against the sample. If I check it, then whatever I have checked here will be saved next to your sample and will then be used to get better pattern identification. And down here we'll include commercial probiotic mixtures. Notice we have added other things. We have added in drugs or non-drugs common over the, so you can add in more things than the novice. The novice tries to simplify the reality. If you go here and you have nothing checked, it effectively becomes a novice, but you have all of the extra features, things to obtain suggestions from. The number of suggestions you have is here. You can change it to whatever number you want. For example, I do 40, and now I just click suggestions. Goes over to the same page, and now it reloads, and we have 22 bacteria. Not 202, we have 22, so we have reduced it there. And since we're dealing with Thrive, we probably had 400 to begin with, so 22 out of 400 versus 202 out of 4,000, about the same approximate ratio. And then we have down below the same thing, and the list is longer because we specify 40 for each list. And down the bottom we have the bacteria, sorry, the probiotics, which are no known adverse effect. Over on the old UI, you can get probiotics and a juggling act between positive and negative, so you sort of get mid-estimate. For the simple UI, we keep it absolutely simple. We do no balancing act. We'll just give you the probiotics, which has no known adverse effect, and the weight indicates the expected positive effect. So it gives you very much a safe collection of probiotics you should be able to take with no adverse effect anticipated to the best of the current literature. Okay, so that is the second one. Whether or not you have just showing up depends on which lab you're working with. So generally, Biomosite, Thrive, and Ubiome data are the ones which we have patterns for. Foreign is coming along, but we don't have quite enough data. Now, if we're looking at foreign or any other one, we do have the option of using PubMed study, in which case we are using PubMed study, which generally uses a different type of lab processing, unfortunately. So the bacteria they identified may not be the same bacteria identified by your particular lab processing. There's no standardization. I wrote a blog post citing the National Institute of Standards Technology. Basically, you got the same sample, same as a digital file, and process it. You get, depending on which process, you get 92 different answers. So that's why the this way here is the best, because you are dealing with things with identical same lab processing. Whether or not the bacteria identified is correct or not doesn't matter, because what we are doing is rematching the interpretation. Here we are talking basically comparing peanuts to watermelon. Here we're talking apples to apple, oranges to oranges. So if you have nothing or whatever, or want to explore it, for example, let's say, okay, I had some brain fog, anything else there? Oh, I had just had COVID not too long before that, and MECF. So now it will filter to the bacteria which is being reported there. Numbers may not be high because that is what, 1 in 8. I have only one of the 8 bacteria identified, so I don't expect a large number of bacteria to be identified. Click suggestions. If we go, in this case, we have 10 bacteria identified, and we have the suggestions at the bottom. I didn't click probiotics this time, so no probiotics are there. Okay, so that's the first 3. The next 2 are similar except for one thing. When I do the first 2, I exclude, I delete all the existing suggestions, and we do a fresh consensus buildup. Here, if you do it, it will add to whatever the last consensus buildup is. So I will click here and get suggestions. And give it some time. Sometimes it's a bit slow. Depends on how many other people are using it. Okay, and now we go back and we do the PubMed study. And PubMed, I have to remark it. It does not remember it, which I think is probably good. And we just get suggestions here. Oops. Okay, and now we have it. And now we have, go over to the consensus report. And consensus report, instead of the usual 4, we have 12 different ways of doing it. We could click here and we see what everybody is agreed upon, as in we've got 13 things which are absolutely there. For example, for infrared sauna, I actually have one. and I use it. Supplements and whatever, so it gives you the list, and then you can go down the list, buy it, and there. Now the question is, how in the world are the suggestions being computed? So I want to diverge quickly. On the far right, you'll see this little button. This was also on the transcribe pages, directly on the page, but here I've moved it to the consensus page because that's probably the better place. If I click this one, it will go and show the studies. In this case, we have 31 studies being used for making those suggestions. And generally at the bottom, fingers crossed, you will see how many are happy and how many are unhappy. And this does a simple naive count. And remember, whether or not we are happy or unhappy depends on a variety of factors. For example, this one here is a direct citation, so it will get more weight than this one, which is a parent or a child citation. Also, how much of a shift with the colostrum will determine how much weight is given, because we are trying to do a massive balancing. In other words, the colostrum could be 2 times twice as high as the range is, so we should give a lot more one. Another one on the list maybe only 5% above, so we shouldn't give it as much. So there's all of this calculations happening behind the scene, but the bottom line is this is the information being used to do the processing. You could go and take the same information, do your own calculations, whether or not you agree or disagree with it. It's totally up to you. The information is there, and you can see basically this is direct quotation, and then the child and parents are inferred ones, which usually we give less weight to because we are less certain of it, but it helps fill in gaps of missing data. So that is basically it. And we can go back and we go in consensus. Let's go down to the ever end. And this one is, oh, okay, avoid. Let's go to the worst one. Here we have a particular one. We click here, and we have 45 citations this time. And we have 32 saying to avoid, 13 saying to take. In this case, this is much cleaner than the other one because it's quite a distance between. Sometimes the distances numbers will be reversed, so you get a bigger count of one than the other, but that doesn't factor in all the calculation for how much weight we should give to each one. That's where you need to be aware, and you may need to do your own calculations, looking at how far away you are from ranges for each one of them. Again, this is sort of messy calculations. It's all automated, but you can do your own determination if you want. In this case, you probably won't disagree because we have 32 cases where it makes things worse. Hence, it's probably a clean, safe avoid. Okay, let's go back, and we have looked at a symptom. We have not looked at symptom entry. Symptom entry, let's go back here. And basically, it's just a list of all the symptoms. First of all, with ones which are matches for your particular and here is a bit, okay, age 50 to 60. Actually, that should be 60 to 70. But you notice that I got a reasonably close match to my age, but down here for other ages, like a teenager, I'm not a match. For somebody over 70, I'm not a match. You'll find it's surprising how often it correctly identifies your age or other characteristics from the microbiome. Um, and things like female here or male may be there too. So it's not that. And then you get alphabetically listed all of the rest of them. And you can mark them. So mark them if you have them, doesn't matter if it's 0%, mark them and then do a click update. So it's saved, and we can do citizen science, identify more bacterial pattern. Why do we want bacterial pattern? Again, very simple. It tells us which bacteria are likely responsible for your symptoms or your diagnosis, and thereby tells us These are the ones you want to concentrate on. Forget the rest of it. And we want to be really focused and targeting exactly the bacteria which seems to be responsible. Okay, and so that covers consensus report, symptom report, and I'm going to go over to the food menu report because it was it's on the old UI, but most people never noticed it. And here I moved up the priority and also did some revisions. So if you go over here, you will see each sample which you have done suggestions on. I've been using going back and forth with demos. And if you go over and click on this number, you will see the bacteria you should be, the nutrients you should have, and you notice it's not a full page, and things you should avoid is also listed there. So it basically tells you, okay, these are the things you should do. And let's say we take the first one, resveratrol. And the first question is, okay, resveratrol can be obtained as a supplement, but also it is in some food substances. So let's click that. And we have the amounts here in there. And notice this little thing here, which indicates that we have a significant amount. In other words, we have more here than we do in majority of everything. And if you take a look at the numbers, we see pretty good numbers here. And now we suddenly drop down to 3 instead of 9,040. So these contain tiny amount of resveratrol, but not significant. In other words, you can largely ignore them. And let's go back to the other end. Let's take a look at the negatives. Let's go over to one of those and let's take a look at, okay, let's take a look at this one. And there's only one thing that has any significant one, time I, whatever that is. We should point out that this data is coming from a rather large list of different public databases of what is in different things, including some from New Zealand, from Asia, from Africa. So you get all sorts of food. You will get things like caribou. You will get things like walrus in there because somebody had done it. You get some oddball foods. So that is something to keep in mind. So let's go back here and let's go back here. And here we have there. Now, let's go. So that gives you how to manually go through. However, we try making life easy. We have lists of quick takes and quick foods, which are ones which probably you should probably pay more attention to. So quick avoid foods are here, and if you click here and just click on it, and you'll see why. Oh, it has 3 items which has significant amount we should avoid. It has more items there without the amount being particularly significant, but you probably should avoid. But 3 of them have significant amount. But significant amount is very simple. It means it has a lot more than the vast majority of foods. And take, we have 2 amounts, and the amount you have is not significant. And if you go here, you see 3 of the significant amount is in this thing, hence you should avoid it. So very simple logic there. And let's go back here. Let's do quick take foods. American cranberry, same procedure. Go over here and we click here, and you see we have 2 items which are take. It has more phenomene than majority of foods. It has more of this particular substance most of the foods. You may have to ask Perplexity or Google what that means, or you can just click here and see what else has it, and you'll see that it's something unique for American cranberry. It's also in olive and olive oil, but look at the microscopic amount. Hence, American cranberry is where you have it, or if you can get it as a supplement, fine, but if you can't, then guess what? You're going to be buying American cranberry if you want to do it. So let's go back and there, and now what you can do is you can start building up a menu plan, etc., which I will not cover at this time. But basically, you get your choice of here are the quick avoids and here's the quick takes. Generally, quick avoids, take a look down the list and see, particularly the ones which are higher in value, and see about trying to exclude them. They may or may not agree with the suggestions on microbiome prescription, because what we are doing here is we're looking at the contents and not the net effect. And there is a slight difference there. And here we have calcium, magnesium, and vitamin C are all items which are there, and then other things there. So we have a fair number of items there. We have 13 items to avoid, and we have just 2 items to take. So coriander leaf is probably not correct, unless there's a study showing that it does wonderful things, and that generally because of other chemicals in the coriander leaf which are not reported in the nutrition database. So there's a 2 layers. There's what is reported on the measure which we are working from, and then there's another set of substances which are special chemicals in the food which may be having an effect, and since we don't capture it, don't know what it is, then we end up with microbiome prescription saying take it, just saying probably shouldn't, and the difference is these extra undeclared chemicals. So keep that in mind. So if there's contradiction, go with microbiome prescription because it is more likely to include the missing chemicals in terms of the impact. If there's no information at all, then make use of this site. It gives you what I habitually will say, the best probability of being correct. Not guaranteed to be correct. Everything is being done on probability, the best probability of being correct. Okay, so that's the food site. Enjoy it. Get surprised. You will find some things surprised. All the information coming from here. There may be errors in the data. I've 1 or 2 pieces of data I've seen looks like there was either an input error or the source misreported or there was a follow-up somewhere. So again, take it with care. There are a lot of data in the database. So if you see something definitely wrong, please report it to me with a URL to where you're getting the information from, and then I'll attempt to make corrections. Okay, and the last thing we want to do, that's there, I'm going to close all of those to the right, and I'm going to go back and we're going to look at these 2 ones. And these 2 ones are different than above. Above is working all entirely from PubMed studies. So whether or not there's a study depends if somebody has studied it and has published it, and how well they've published with it, how many bacteria were examined, how big a sample set. Often the studies are just 30 people or 30 whatever, and the result is your ability to detect things is pretty weak. So there's how should I say, there's a problem with quantity and quality of data from PubMed studies, but that's what we have the most of in terms of this area, and that is what we have our little first line of suggestions, and we do the best that we can to calculate the most likely items to do it. Now, what we have here is working from the DNA and RNA of all the bacteria species in your gut, and we don't know the exact thing because we're not doing full mechagenomics, but we have done an estimate using KEGG data of how much is being produced, a variety of chemicals, how much I consume of the same chemicals, which we refer to as compound, and then enzymes, which are being produced by the bacteria or in the bacteria, which impacts the compound. So what we do is we just go and click here, and you got a choice of low and high. Generally, I suggest going with low for a simple reason. If you are low, you don't have enough of a compound, it's likely to cause far more severe changes or dysbiosis than if you have high amount. Think of it as this way. You have a plate and you don't and you're giving them to somebody to eat. If you don't have enough food, they're going to be cranky, irritable, they're going to act up if it's a kid, etc., etc. They're not going to be happy. So that isn't that what dysbiosis is? On the other hand, you load up the plate with more food than a person can eat it, and they are done, and they are more than likely going to go off and sleep, and a whole bunch of food gets tossed in the garbage. So having a surplus generally, although it's there for completeness, I like to enable completeness. Generally, you want to go with the low compounds because those are the ones likely to have a far, far greater effect. So you just go and you select that. You don't do anything more, and you do get suggestions. So now it calculates the compounds being produced by a variety of probiotics, and everything in the list are probiotics which are available somewhere in the world, and in some cases may only be available as part of a probiotic mixture. So so the result is you see a whole bunch of things there, and you say, "Hell, I never seen that in my on my health food store probiotic shelf. I never seen one called that." Well, they're out there somewhere. So that gives you the priority, and then down below you have the retail brands containing them and the ranking. So what we have here is Mutaflora and Semaphore 2, both are E. coli probiotic, and they produce a lot, much, much more of the missing compounds than anything else, almost 3 times more. Mutaflora is particularly dear to my heart because it has worked wonders when I've had a chronic fatigue relapse. It just has done wonders in normalizing it, and probably the mechanism is it basically supplies a whole bunch of missing chemicals. So my gut isn't starving, my immune system will normalize, etc. And then we go over and have other things there, and then go all the way to the end. And some things you get just a token amount of. So that's the first way. Now we could go back, and if we want to do it, is do it on high compound. So it does it the same way. So now it's looking at what compounds are being consumed by the probiotics and trying to normalize that way. Not exactly the same thing to do because the only thing it will be doing is reducing things you have too much of. And where you're cutting down the size of the big plate of food and you're trying to trim off, take away some of the foods. But let's take a quick look at it. And guess what? E. coli shows up again. It is a consumer of a bunch of things. And now if we go to the end, we have some which actually has 0. It will do absolutely nothing. Neutral. Some cases you will actually get negative numbers showing up there. So that is it. And let's go over to enzyme. Enzymes is a similar thing. The catch is many of the enzymes you may be short of. Some of them, a small number, will be available as enzyme supplements. Many will not be. In fact, the vast majority of them won't be. There's 3,000 or 4,000 different enzymes examined, and we don't have 3 or 4 different types of enzymes on the star shelves. So what it does, it calculates which probiotics produces which enzymes as an attempt to normalize. So it is trying to address deficiency of enzymes. And here we go and click suggestions again. And E. coli shows up again. Given that this was a thing, this was post-COVID, I'm not surprised. You often see E. coli showing up for chronic fatigue syndrome patient and non-COVID patient. And then we have down here, and notice again, next one down is 1/3. Yeah, it is a whopping big amount of enzymes there. So we have the next ones, and again you can go down and take a look at the list. Some things absolutely does nothing to it. So for example, Acromanthes municipa has no apparent benefit in terms of other enzymes or compounds, and if it's not on your PubMed suggestion list, forget about trying it. It's probably not going to go anywhere. Okay, so at that point in time, let's go back and summarize. First one, that is somebody goes and gives you suggestions, looking from the highs and lows and definition of high or low. We use 4 or 5 different definitions. We use Jason Harlick's ranges. We use some other ranges, and we just go blindly in there. This one, and we do 4 or 5 different ways of selecting the bacteria, and then we calculate the bacteria. We calculate each different way. So we do a whole bunch of different methods because we don't know what the right method is. So we try different methods in the hopes that taking them together as a consensus or a Monte Carlo simulation, to use the mathematical term, we will get better suggestions than just going with one. We look for where everybody agrees on. That's the one which is more likely to be correct. Beginner syndrome works for some labs, but not all of them. We'll show you which ones you are a match of. Check off the ones you are matches for. Go and see what it comes up with, and go from there. And don't forget to add in your symptoms so that this becomes better and more accurate. As the number of samples goes up and the number of people with antigen symptoms go up, we get better ability to detect which bacteria are the likely ones. PubMed is sort of a if it's something which we don't have this type of data for, it gives us our best way of trying to identify the bacteria. Nowhere near as good as up here, but it is better than nothing. It at least gives us some way of making a preliminary, very rough suggestion. And then here, when we do here, we doing Monte Carlo, we do not get rid of the prior suggestions. We just keep adding them and adding them and adding them. And you can play with them as much as you want. You can get 100 sets of suggestions if you really want. And then we go down to not using published PubMed literature. We're using DNA and RNA coming from the Kyoto Encyclopedia of Gene and Genomics, and trying to find probiotics, and only probiotics which produces missing compounds or missing enzymes, or ones which are too high. Generally, remember, starving of compounds are more likely to cause dysbiosis than having a surplus. Okay, so that is it. This is my fourth try of getting this video out, and hopefully it will make it this time. Okay, thank you very much for being patient, and go and enjoy.